Hello everyone, welcome to a new video in our course Basics of School Curriculum. In this video we will discuss the discovery approach. The discovery approach tries to use the scientific method in designing the science curriculum. The scientific approach is an organized way to answer a question about the natural world. So the students use the inquiry or the scientific method to study a scientific phenomenon and try to explain this phenomenon. Before we start studying the discovery approach, we have to understand what does science do when they face a natural phenomenon. First, they observe this phenomenon, then they ask questions about how and why this phenomenon happened. Then they make claim, and the claim is a possible answer for the question, and they test this claim. They collect and interpret data and make conclusion from this data. And the last step is communicate with other scientists or with other people. The discovery approach is teaching provides the opportunity for students to think independently and obtain knowledge for themselves. And this trend takes the feature of an integrated scientific position that puts the student in the position of the scientist, the discoverer. The students gain information by following the scientist's way of thinking. This discovery learning approach is based on the idea that students construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiences and reflected on these experiences. The figure you see summarize the steps of the scientific inquiry or the discovery process. The discovery process or the inquiry process starts with posing questions about a natural phenomenon. Then we form a hypothesis or a claim, design an experiment, collect and interpret data, draw conclusions, and the last step is communication with others. The first step of the scientific inquiry or the scientific discovery is asking a question. Science begins with observations, and these observations often lead to questions about how or why the natural phenomenon happened. Step two in the scientific inquiry or scientific discovery is doing the background research. Students or scientists don't have to start their research from the scratch. They can get benefits from their past experiences, from the experiences of others that they can gain from books, magazine, internet, reports, and so on. Step three is forming the claim. I think I mentioned the definition of the claim before. A claim is a possible answer for the question based on what you know and what you observe. The student or the scientist who forms a claim must be certain that this claim can be tested. If the claim can be observed, then it can be tested. The claim is stated in the if-then format. For example, if I water 3 plants with different sodas, then the plant that receives Sprite will grow the tallest. Students in the class may make different claims for the same question. If I ask them what makes iron nails rust, one of them may think just being outside The open air makes them rust. Another one, it's dampness that does it. Third student claim that it's something in the woods. Fourth one may think that it's the cold of the winter that does it. This means we have different claims for one question. The fourth step is testing the claims. There are three different ways to test our claims. The first one is making observation. Scientists use observation to answer a lot of the scientific questions and test many claims, like observing the motion of the moon and the relation between sun and earth and the moon during this motion. The second way is mathematical proofs, and this way is very important in science because we can answer many questions and test many claims without going to the laboratory. The third way is conducting an experiment. The experiment looks at how one thing affects another under controlled conditions. Experimentation doesn't depend on traditional experiences with drawn steps. I call these drawn steps the cooking recipe. We give the student the detailed steps and ask them to follow this step to answer the question. The experimentation is just a source for knowledge that the student exercise during the planning and the conclusion processes. And this experimentation helps the students to apply what they have learned in a new situations. Can you determine what is the claim being tested in the presented figure? If we are going to make an experiment, we have to differentiate between three types of variables. The first type is independent variable. An independent variable answers the question, what do I change? The second variable is dependent variable, which answers the question, what do I observe? The third one is control variables, which answer the question, what do I keep the same? Fifth step is collecting and interpreting data. What is data? It is information gathered during the experiment. It is organized into data table and displayed visually as graphs. We have to differentiate between the two types of data, the quantitative data and the qualitative data. Quantitative data is data consisting of numbers, like heart rate is 80 beats per minute, and qualitative data is data consisting of verbal description. Example, verbal description of heart rate like fast or slow. Step number 6 is conclusion. Conclusion is the result or findings based on the data collected during the experiment. We can consider conclusion as the answer for the scientific question. The last step is communication. Scientists or students who are conducting the experiment must communicate with others in the form of written paper or presentation. And this communication helps the scientist or the other students to reconduct the experiment and be sure that these results are real. The communication with others help them to learn about the experiment and its results. During the discovery or the inquiry, teacher can support his students by offering different levels of guiding. So we can classify inquiry into 4 levels. The structured inquiry, in which questions, procedures, and results are given. the controlled inquiry in which question and procedures are given and results are not given. The guided inquiry in which question is given and procedures and results are not given. The last one is free inquiry in which question, procedures, and results are not given. From the previous study of the discovery approach or the inquiry approach, we can summarize importance of this approach into 5 main points. Number one, conservation of memory through the integration of knowledge. Students gain information in integrated form so they can realize the relation between this information. Two, learn exploration skills. Inquiry helps students to gain different types of skills like scientific process skills, observation, classification, and so on. And it helps them also to gain the asking question skill and forming claim skills and so on. Three, learning the heuristic of discovery. Number four, the inquiry approach or the discovery approach increases intrinsic motivation. This approach leads the learner to move from reliance on external reward to rely on internal reinforcement because the discovery process is an enjoyable process. And here learning turns into what is called learning from mental enjoyment. Number five, the discovery approach leads to intuitive understanding. This kind of understanding is exciting for students and even increases their confidence in themselves and their dependence on the discovery strategy. In this video, we studied the discovery approach, or what we can call it the inquiry approach. We focused on the definition of this approach and the importance of it. Thank you for your attention. I wish you all the best.